friends, I am going to be reading a chapter outside today because this weather is amazing. It's almost like summertime. I hope you guys have been getting out and enjoying this weather just like my pups and I have. So, here is chapter 22. It's finally Saturday, graveyard day. I kept hoping something would change, that Inez would stop haunting me and we wouldn't even need to come here, but it hasn't happened. Thursday and Friday were just as bad as every other day since we moved into the house on Shady Street, maybe even worse. Thursday I spent the night searching the house with Mom. We were trying to find our last watercolors. No luck. The only thing we found was Reno, in my room, again. Jonah swore he didn't put him there, and I know he's telling the truth, which only leaves one possibility: Inez. Then last night, a gust of wind woke me up. It was so strong that it knocked one of Mom's paintings off the wall. Fortunately, it landed on the couch and not my head, but yikes. Inez is definitely still around. She's also definitely still unhappy. I know I agreed to come here, but now that we're standing in front of the gates to Graceland Cemetery, I'm having second thoughts. So, I guess it's go time, Andrew says, but his face tilted upward toward the sky. Black clouds drift lazily across the palette of grays. Low rumbles echo in the distance. I laughed to myself. Of course it's stormy and scary looking on the day we visit the graveyard. Why wouldn't it be? The gates are thick black wrought iron and they're wide open. Enormous trees stretch as far as I can see. Let's just get this over with, I groaned, pulling my jacket tighter up around my neck. The wind is biting into me today, and I don't want to be outside here any longer than we have to be. I think the offices for the cemetery are just to the right, Nina whispers as we cross through the gates and find ourselves on a narrow paved path. Why are you whispering? Andrew asks. It's not like you're going to bother any of them. With this, he sweeps his hand over the gravestones sprawled out in front of us. For a moment, I can't breathe. There are so many. Huge ones that spiral up to the sky and small ones that are chipped and unmarked. Ones with faces and ones with entire bodies carved into the stone. Maybe they're supposed to be immortalize someone or make us feel better about death, but all they make me want to do is pee my pants. A smile fills out Nina's pale face. She cinches her dark blue jacket tight around her neck and nods toward the graves. Welcome to Graceland, guys. Excitement in her voice is hard to miss. Even with all that hair whipping around her face, I can see it too. Her hot cocoa-colored eyes are bright, twinkling like she just stepped through the gates of Disney World. Only this isn't Disney World. It's a cemetery, and I've never been so nervous in my whole life. A small brick building sits in the corner exactly where Nina said it was. It looks newer than all the headstones surrounding it. Out of place almost. The door is, of course, locked, and there's a small buzzer. I push it with shaking hands and wait for the door to unlatch so we can go in. There we find a small lobby-like room with a couch and 2 leather armchairs. There are black and white pictures framed on the walls and brochures about choosing Graceland as a final resting place. Can I help you? A woman's voice breaks into the quiet and all 3 of us snap to attention. Nina composes herself first. Yes, we're here looking for the grave of Inez Clark. Her voice trembles just slightly, giving away that even our local graveyard expert is a little afraid. Can you tell us which direction it is? The woman nods and tucks a pen behind her ear. The tip of it peeks out of her salt and pepper hair just enough to look like some kind of weird barrette. She slides open a drawer behind her desk and rifles through it for a moment. Then she ambles over to the counter and sets a sheet of paper down in front of us. It looks like a map, only instead of cities and states, there are numbers. The cemetery is divided up into a series of different paths with street names. She traces one of her finger and then highlights it in bright pink. I'm surprised they have pink highlighters in graveyard offices. You'd think they'd stick with something uglier. This path is called Main Street. Take that until you hit Graceland Avenue and veer left. That will take you directly to Inez gravesite. Graceland Avenue and Graceland Cemetery? Interesting. So, the person actually buried here is someone by the name of Amos Briggs. Is that right? A little boy? Nina asked, tapping on the number 42, which indicates where the statue of Inez Clark is. She's getting braver. The woman's eyebrows knit together tightly. She turns and looks through the window, scouring the scene outside for something. Are you here with the tour group? Because they are required to register in advance with us. Her tone is sharp now, and I'm worried. Maybe we shouldn't be asking any at all. Andrew steps up to the counter and smiles. He looks so innocent when he does that. No, ma'am. We're not here with the ghost tour. We're here because we're doing a research project. Inez Clark is very important to us. Can you help? She studies his face for a moment. The wrinkles in her forehead slowly smooth out and disappear. If you're asking me to tell you the truth, I will. I don't know for sure if Inez Clark is buried there. I know someone is buried there, and the name Amos Briggs is on the plot record, but the statue says Inez. A clap of thunder shakes the building, and Nina shrieks. The women gasp and the lights flicker. I close my eyes for a brief moment and try to steady my breathing. The first time the lights flickered on me anywhere, it was in my bathroom at home, and that ended up being one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Then they flickered again, in my room. Why does this keep happening around me? I can also tell you that there have been reports of the statue disappearing. The woman's voice drops until she's nearly whispering. Groundskeepers for generations have reported that it vanishes during lightning storms. Vanishes? I stutter. How is that possible? The woman shrugs, a wicked smile stretching across her wrinkled face. I don't know, dear. I'm only telling you what I've heard through the grapevine. Apparently, shortly after Inez's statue showed up in the cemetery, storms started. Storms. There have been a lot of storms since I moved to Chicago. Terrible storms with the kind of thunder and lightning that rattle your bones, she continues. Her voice is raspy, scary. Any other, strange things happen around the statue? I swallow hard, half afraid to hear her answer. She nods, and the pen behind her ear bobs. You name it, and it's happened. But the crying is the worst. My ears perk up. Crying? Oh yes, sometimes just before we close the gates we hear someone crying. Sounds like a girl, a little girl. She pulls the pen from behind her ear and slowly draws a bright red circle around the location of Inez's grave. Maybe even Inez. Nina looks at me nervously. The lights flicker once, twice, 3 more times before resuming full strength. Please don't let them go out completely, I think. I can't handle being stuck in a cemetery office in the pitch black, especially with this woman. Vanishing statue, storms, crying, got it, Nina says, digging a pen from her bag and jotting down a note on the side of the graveyard map. All of that definitely backs up the story that Inez died of a lightning strike. I mean, the haunted part of it makes sense. Was Amos Briggs listed in the Chicago census at the time? I mean, was he a real person? Andrew asks. I turn to look at him, impressed. I hadn't thought of it, but he's brought up a good question. I'm not sure, dear. I'm sorry. I don't usually answer questions about the older grave sites like Inez. I'm more of a liaison to the families that are considering burying their loved ones here now. Thank you for your time, and for the map, Nina says, taking my hand and dragging me toward the door. We step outside just in time for a gust of wind to hit us, sending the map sailing into the air. Andrew chases after it, raising his fist in victory as he plants a wet heel on it to pin it down. Nina peels it off the pavement. Inez Clark's grave is really not that far from where we are now. No way, I say, shaking my head violently. It's going to start pouring any minute. If we get stuck there during a storm, they might need to start digging a hole for me. Andrew rubs the back of his neck and scans the sky. If you really don't want to, it's okay, but I think we have time. Orange leaves rain down, then plaster themselves to the wet pavement. The partially bare tree limbs rattle against one another in the wind, making me think of bones. All the bones tucked down in the soggy earth around us. I hold my breath as another stiff breeze howls across the stretch of headstones, bringing with it the smell of burning wood, the fireplace. What I wouldn't have given to be back in Florida right now, where the only rattling sound I ever heard was mangrove trees quaking in the lazy afternoon rain, and the only smell in the air was the brine of ocean. Fall in Chicago is beautiful and crisp, and all those things my parents brag about, but it's also ghostly. That's really the only word that can describe the feeling here. Ghostly. Tessa? Andrew's voice breaks into my observations. I look up, realizing that he and Nina are staring at me, waiting for my reaction. They look excited, hopeful. Me? Not so much. But as scared as I am, walking to Inez's grave is the least I can do, considering they were willing to come here for me, to help me. I don't know how I'll ever pay them back. Ugh, fine, I say hesitantly, but let's be fast. Okay, so write down some predictions on what they'll experience during their graveyard adventure. Till tomorrow for chapter 23.